Hey friends, happy Monday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Monday to hopefully motivate you to cook for your family and give you some new meal ideas. This week starts off with a bunch of easy meals that I don't show me making step by step because we were still recovering from being sick, and then towards the end of the week I start showing you I think 3 recipes that I make step by step that were all delicious. So I hope you all are having a great Monday and a great start to your week. But let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday was Halloween, so of course we had chili. If you know, you know, we've been making chili on Halloween for years now. It is our tradition. So I made a big crock pot full of chili. We topped it with some shredded cheddar cheese, and then Andy and I also tried raw onion on our chili for the first time and really enjoyed it. As always, that recipe for the chili will be linked down below. It has a video, I think, or it's in a vlog, so that'll be linked down there, as well as the full typed out recipe. Saturday we had chili mac. I just made my Instant Pot mac and cheese, and then I stirred in a couple cups of the chili that I warmed in the microwave, and we've got chili mac. And this is a family favorite. They definitely always want me to make chili mac whenever we have leftover chili. Moving on to another family favorite. This is smoked sausage, green beans, and potatoes. Very simple, very quick and easy, although you can just dump everything in the crock pot and let it cook for 4 or 5 hours, and it's even easier that way. But I prefer to do it on the stove because I feel like the sausage gets kind of weird in the crock pot. So that recipe will also be linked down below. I have it listed out. That originally comes from another friend here on YouTube, so I will also link her channel, although I don't think she makes videos anymore last time I checked, but I will link it anyway. And to wrap up our little stretch of super easy meals that I did not show me making step by step, we had spaghetti. It's meat sauce, ground beef, the marinara from Aldi that we love, and then we actually did it over angel hair pasta and then some steamed broccoli on the side. Alright, for Tuesday night, we made chicken cobbler. This is basically like a chicken pot pie. The recipe came from TikTok, and I will have it linked down below. I've made this at least once before, and I made some adaptations to it this time based on the comments because it did seem to take a long time to cook last time, and it was a little too liquidy for my liking. So in a 9x13 casserole dish, I am popping in a stick of butter, and I'm putting that in the oven so that the butter can melt while the oven preheats. And I did preheat the oven to 375. Then in this big measuring cup, I am mixing together 1.5 cups of chicken broth. The recipe did call for more, but I cut it by I think half a cup, and then 1 can of cream of chicken soup, and I'm going to whisk that together. And of course, for my chicken broth, I'm using water and nor chicken bouillon and mixing that together first. Then once the butter was melted in my casserole dish, I added in 1 can of drained chicken and then 1 can of drained mixed vegetables. And I'm seasoning this a little bit. Recipe didn't call for it, but I think I did onion powder, garlic powder, a little bit of pepper, and then I'm going to pour over that broth and cream of chicken mixture. And then in the same measuring cup, I'm going to dirty the same dish. I am mixing together 2 cups of milk, and then the entire powder package of a box of Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. And then also the little garlic seasoning package. Whisk that all together really, really well. And then we're going to be pouring that over the top of our chicken cobbler. But first, I'm also adding cheese. This was another recommendation that I saw in the TikTok comments. I sprinkled on some cheese, and then I poured on the Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. And once you're adding this, you don't want to stir it. That's why this is like a cobbler, because on a cobbler, once you pour on that bready crust mixture, you don't stir it anymore, and it's gonna rise up to the top and puff up and crisp up and be so delicious. Once I got that poured on, then I popped this in the oven on 375 for 45 minutes, and then it was done. It was nice and golden and bubbly, and I let it sit for about 10 minutes just to thicken up a little bit, and then we served it, and you've got everything you need in here, your vegetables, your meat. Just, it's such a comforting and filling meal, and I will definitely make this again. Wednesday night we had Korean beef, which we have had before, but it's been a little while since I've made it. So I'm starting off by heating up a little bit of sesame oil in my pan, and then once that's hot, I added in 1 pound of ground beef, and I'm just cooking that up until it's almost all the way cooked through. The recipe wanted you to add the garlic at the very beginning with the meat, but I decided to hold off on that and add it in more towards the end when I felt like the meat was almost done. So here I am. I'm adding in a couple of those little garlic cubes that I keep in the freezer. They are so quick and easy and taste better than the garlic, but sometimes I will use garlic too, because once I run out of these, I might not be able to find the little ones for the price that I want to pay, because there are like name brand ones, but I prefer to get them at like Aldi or Trader Joe's where they're pretty cheap. So then I let that cook for a couple more minutes until the ground beef was done, and let that garlic get nice and fragrant. And then I didn't have a lot of fat left on my meat. I was cooking it on a pretty high temperature, and like most of the water that cooked off like evaporated. So then I'm adding in the stuff to make my sauce, which is 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of low sodium soy sauce, some ground ginger, salt and pepper, some crushed red pepper flakes, and just give that all a good stir and let it simmer over a medium heat for a couple minutes so that meat can really like soak up that sauce and get nice and flavored. And that's it. It's pretty simple and pretty quick, honestly. I made some white rice in the Instant Pot, and that recipe will be down below. That's quick and easy, my perfect white rice. And then I also made some steamed broccoli in the microwave. And then some of us topped this with some sesame seeds, some of the Trader Joe's chili onion crunch, and then I also have the Trader Joe's furikake, which is like seaweed and sesame seeds, and it was delicious, of course. For my next meal, I wanted to make a crock pot full of beans, because I know beans are cheap and so many people are struggling right now, and beans can fill you up, and like I said, they're cheap and they can go far and feed a lot of people. So this is an entire bag of pinto beans that I have rinsed, and then I picked through them for rocks, and then some beans were floating in the water, so I took those out as well. And the recipe that I followed had me fill the crock pot with water enough to cover the beans like by 3 inches like above the beans. And then I added in an onion that I just cut in half, because it said these things could be like whole big pieces. And then I also added in 2 jalapeno, again just whole big pieces. And then I did a little bit of Knorr beef bouillon, and then some of those little frozen garlic cubes. And then to flavor it more, they said to use like ham hock, like the ham bone, but of course like I don't have that. But an easy way to add more flavor is to just add some bacon. So I added in 2 pieces of bacon, and then we're just gonna let that cook on low for like 8 hours. Or I did high for like 5 hours and then turned it down to low and let it just sit. And then like an hour before eating, I went in and looked at them, and I was like, oh, they're like done. And then you can add in salt to your liking, to your taste, and then they taste amazing. And then once you're like actually done, you can go in and you can take out the big pieces of onion or pepper and the bacon, because you don't want the bacon. The bacon's going to be so floppy, but all that flavor cooked out of the bacon and into the beans. And the kids said that this tasted like ham and bean soup because of that flavor of the bacon in the beans. And then I took a potato masher and kind of mashed up some of the beans because I wanted that like kind of consistency. These were so good, and they would have been good on their own, just like with rice, but Andy wanted meat, so I did make some chicken in the Instant Pot. I made some salsa chicken, which was literally just salsa, some seasonings, and chicken, and I cooked that in the Instant Pot for like 15 minutes till my chicken was shreddable, and we had that and some plain white rice, and then the beans and some lime to squeeze over top. And like I said at the beginning, this can stretch so far. So we all had this, all four of us had this for dinner. All four of us had this for lunch on Friday. On Saturday, all four of us had some form of beans and rice and chicken for lunch. And then on Sunday, the kids and I had beans once again with a cheese quesadilla. So many meals that were had from this one pot of beans. I also could have frozen them, but I was just like having fun eating beans. They were so tasty that nobody once complained. Lily actually said she was going to request these beans for dinner for her birthday, and I'm like, child, this is one of the simplest, cheapest meals that I could make. Like, what? They're just beans. But she loved them so much. So that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. Now it is time for our weekly member shout outs. So real quick, I wanted to say thank you to all of you who continue to choose to support me and my channel. I know times are hard, and I just really appreciate you continuing to do that during these times. It really helps me out and helps my family out and helps me continue to, make videos for this channel. So thank you guys so much. And if you're wondering about channel memberships, that you can find down below. You should see a join button next to my name or the subscribe button, or you can go to my channel page and you should see it there. And if you don't, try logging into YouTube in like a browser like Google Chrome, and then you'll probably see it and you can get all the information on that. But that is going to be it for today's What's for Dinner. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave me a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below. I do these every Monday, and I also do grocery hauls every Thursday. Now I had to move things around, but every Thursday. I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.